guys miss. All right. So I'll finish the closed loop lecture that was left, and then I'll give you a break to do the roll call because I need to report to the registrar how many students are in the class. That's just for that. I'll give you 2 points for it. And it has to be done during the class time. And then I'll start today's lecture, which is block diagram. Most of you know, but some of you haven't had signals and system, I think, before this, just to review and make sure everyone is in the same page before we get to transfer functions, all right? So it will be of a review for some of you, and for some of you it would be new. All right. So a quick reminder, if you have fever, please don't come to the classroom. Email me, schedule a test, stay home. You can watch the recording, or if you feel okay, you could ask me to come to the Zoom. You mute yourself, you just watch if you need it. If not, you can just watch the video, and then you'll send me a result. If you're good, you come. If not, then I'll give you accommodation. That's the only way that I can accommodate and help you, because I keep track of who is not in the class because of COVID. And for those of you that I agree to help you, I will extend the assignments if needed. But if you haven't informed me, I can't help you. I won't extend anything. So make sure that if you're sick, talk to me and don't show up. All right. And then if you needed to come to the Zoom and you talked to me and I said, okay, my Zoom information is here. That's the ID, that's the password. So that eliminates an extra email. Please give us your Zoom link. You have the information here. That would also work as my office hours. I haven't set the office hours yet. I'll do that this week. I'll ask you what times works better for you. And then that you can use that for office hours. But if you needed to see me before that, you can email me and use the same link to come online and talk to me. All right. So you, I think your class participation was graded. Thank you. I will post some example for that class participation for closed loop. I think when we cover today's lecture, it will kind of be obvious. It will be similar. All closed loop systems follow the same system, same format. All right. So a quick reminder. For closed loop system, the only thing we do to our open loop, because our open loop system could have a controller, right? So we have a plant. We could have system that are open loop, just a plant. There's no controller. So that's not a control system, but it's still a system that takes input and output. So some of your discussion when you introduced yourself and brought an example of a control system, some of you mentioned system that our system have input and output, but nothing specifically controls them, or you didn't mention the control system part. So don't forget, when we talk about control system, we have to mention exactly what subsystem we are talking about. So your phone, yes, is a system, has input output, but as a phone is not a control system, but there are control subsystems inside of it. So you want to mention those. So that gives you an understanding whenever you see a system, it's like, okay, is something controlling this, controlling the input, manipulating the input to get a desired output. All right, that's really important. Now, an open loop system that has a plant, there's a process going on, there is a controller, but we don't check the output. We accept. All right, I put my clothes in a washer. After an hour, I'll go pick them up there. Hopefully they're dry, right? There is a timer in there, there's a controller, but we don't manipulate that. Now, if we add a sensor, let's say that I add a sensor to my dryer, it's like, okay, if the clothes are either check their temperature or wetness, depending on what I'm checking. If it's below this, if it's not dry yet, continue running, right? So I looked at my output, I measured, and then I'm manipulating. If it is not as dry as I want through the sensor, I'm comparing my desired temperature with the temperature that is actual temperature. If it's not that, goes to the controller, and something happens. Now it's for the washer, could be the timer, add extra 5 minutes, keep running until I get that temperature, right? So if you did that, that becomes a closed loop. Now we are sending a feedback, right? So when we will see that when we draw the block diagram, you will have this negative sign here, because at this summation point, you will say that your commanded variable, so this comes with positive, I will say command. Then on this junction, this minus negative controlled, right? Then this becomes this signal, which is your error. So this is called negative feedback. We have positive feedback system as well, right? But we are going to only focus on negative feedback system. We will just call it feedback. So whenever you just say feedback, it's a negative feedback, all right, if it's not specified. Now, in your, in the signal back, we usually have a system. For now, we show, have a, sensor. We show our sensor in a block. We don't know what it is, right? We can define a transfer function for it, but for now, we just show a sensor. If this sensor wasn't there and we just had one line going from output to our input to that junction, summation junction, what does it mean? What's the value of that line? What does it mean when I get a signal from Y, the output, and send that signal? So here it's controlled, if you want to write it properly, times sensor. There's a transfer function, right? This is actually your error. So this is control variable times whatever happens in this sensor. Now, if I didn't put the sensor, I just draw one line. We talked about it last class. What does that mean? It's a perfect sensor. 100% reads the output and sends it back. Sensor is not ideal, right? So you have a resolution that would affect your output. Usually we will count for that when we are writing a control system and writing our controller. So if it wasn't there, it just means it's accurate 100% ideal, which doesn't exist. But for simplicity, sometimes we just show that it just align, right? So it would just transfer that signal back. All right, so you remember, well, what happened?